Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. My name is Jason and the channel is The Everyday Card Collector. In today's video we're going to talk about eye appeal. I've mentioned this in a couple lives I was on that I wanted to do this video, and it's kind of my opinion on eye appeal. I don't typically give my opinion. Usually it's pretty broad. I kind of keep to what I enjoy and making this fun by showing cards and things of that nature. But I did want to discuss eye appeal. So I'm hearing that phrase a lot. People who are grading cards are telling you you can find better eye appeal in lesser numbered cards, if you will. A 3 versus a 4, but if the 3's got better eye appeal, that's the card to go for. And it just kind of had me thinking about eye appeal. And I did discuss this a little bit. I did a live with my buddy Aaron on Value Vintage with Value Vintage Cards last week, and I kind of chatted about this. So if you saw that, you might hear some of the same things. But virtually, I find it interesting that there is an overall general statement of what eye appeal is, and I don't really get what it is, because to some people it's perfect centering, sharp corners, clean colors, good registration, and things of that nature. And I guess that would be the generic term of perfect eye appeal or good eye appeal. But in my head, eye appeal is subjectional. So I don't know when someone says that has good eye appeal. Well, good eye appeal to who? There are things that don't bother me in my cards that may bother somebody else. Or there are things that people see in cards that I see and just really don't think it's that big of a deal. I think we get caught up in this hobby a lot, trying to categorize and label what cards are. And at the end of the day, this is a hobby, right? So much like grading is a subjectional number, an opinion that's put on a card. You pay to have that card sent to somebody else and give you an opinion. Now, based on that opinion, that card can hold more value. So I understand why people do it. I understand it's for protection. I haven't graded in a while, but I have in the past. And there are reasons behind why I do it. I just feel that we're constantly trying to categorize and label things in the hobby that don't need to be labeled. One of them being eye appeal. My eye appeal is different from everyone else's eye appeal. Eye appeal can also come into, it comes into play with your budget. So, am I willing to take a lesser card just to have the card? And when I say lesser, less standard eye appeal, if you will. And I am, depending on the scarcity of the card, depending on what it is, that's how I see it. If it's a 56 tops Warren Spahn, maybe I'm going to be a little pickier. If it's 1921 Oxford Confectionaries Eddie Collins, I'm going to be less picky. There are not as many out there as there are on the 56 Spawn. So I just enjoy hearing eye appeal, and I get a kick out of it, because again, I think eye appeal is an opinion, much like grading is an opinion. I have kind of steered a little bit away from grading, just as I'm collecting more and more. If you've been watching the channel, I'm buying a lot more ungraded. There are things that I would certainly still grade if I purchased them, and maybe some things in my collection currently that I might consider grading, but not a whole heck of a lot. What it comes down to for me, being the everyday card collector, is budget's important to me. So I can spend my hobby dollars encasing a card in plastic, or I can spend that money purchasing more cards. And the fact of the matter is, I'd rather have more cards in the collection. So that's kind of how I see it. When I send things out to grading, there's a tremendous amount of thought put into it by me, simply because it's money being spent, and it's money being spent it's money that I could be using on other cards. So I know I'm kind of getting off on a tangent here, but I kind of want to stick with the eye appeal. So budget's important to me based on the scarcity of the card, based on what the card is. If I'm trying to complete a project, and it's a pretty common card, I've kind of veered the opposite way. You could be a little pickier, but If it's a graded card, maybe a 2 or a 3 is good enough for me, and that's all I need, and it's a beautiful card, and the project's complete then. So I hear the phrase eye appeal a lot. I think there's a standardization of what eye appeal is supposed to be. Centered card, sharp corners, good registration, good color. I understand that. But that doesn't have to stay that doesn't have to be a mainstream for everybody. This is a hobby, right? And I kind of get concerned when we start categorizing and labeling things in a manner that don't need to be categorized or labeled. Your card's a 3, it's not a 4, therefore it's worth less money. That's just insanity to me. So I've kind of veered my thought in that. When I dove back into vintage during the pandemic, in my head it was only going to be graded cards is what I was going to purchase. And as time goes on and you change and you shift and you collect, and your opinions and thoughts shift. And my opinion can shift on this as well. But for those of you who don't know, I'm in the printing trade. So I'm familiar with why cards are off-centered. I'm familiar with why they're quote-unquote might be snow or picking. That's ink picking. I'm familiar with those things. So they don't offend me as much because it came out of the pack like that. It was part of the process in 1955 or 56 or 48 when they were printing these cards. So it means less to me. Creases. I understand the crease thing. A lot of people don't like creases. I don't really have a problem with that. If we're talking about cards, particularly pre-war, you know what? We're talking about cards that are 70 years old, 80 years old. So if there's a little bit of wear on them, that's okay to me. It really is. Now, keep in mind, I'm not a value collector. And what I mean by that is everybody wants their collection to maintain value, but I don't collect for value. I don't grade for value. None of that means anything to me. Of course, I'd love my cards to be worth more than what I paid for them. But, if they're not, they're not. So I collect to collect. So I just kind of wanted to get that eye appeal thing out there. My buddy, first it started, I've said this a couple times, it started with Dan Vintage PC. He called it own appeal. It's your own appeal. And my buddy Mike Petty said something that resonated with me really well. And it was a couple weeks ago. I think he was on with Tony Southern Collector, and he said my appeal. And that really, really resonated with me. So I've given him credit on a couple lives, and if he gets the chance to watch this, I'm giving him credit again, because that's a perfect phrase. It's my appeal. It's an opinion. It's how I feel. It's the same thing with grading. We work so hard to put a structure around the hobby to either add value or just make it mainstream. And I don't think it's necessary. And it's just kind of silly to me. So what I did is I grabbed a couple cards that I would consider my appeal, and we can talk about them. I didn't grab a ton, maybe 8 or 9 cards, something like that. But we'll kind of go through them. I'm gonna point out quote unquote the flaws in the card. I don't typically do that, but I'm doing that on purpose this time around, just to kind of show what some would find offensive versus it didn't bother me. It didn't bother me at all, and I ended up purchasing the card. So I just wanted to talk about that. We'll kind of dip into my appeal / eye appeal a little bit more while I'm showing the cards, and have a fun discussion. But at the end of the day, eye appeal is an opinion. To me, grading, I did a grading video a while ago. Grading is a paid opinion. So, what constitutes it being a 4 or 5? I know there's standards set by grading companies, and that's fine. But how well are they following through with them? I don't know. I don't get that deep. But that's kind of why I'm probably shifting towards not grading as much anymore. But just a fun conversation. That's all this is, guys. And I know this intro is kind of long, so I'll get the camera turned around. I'll show the cards that I picked, and we'll have a little discussion on eye appeal on each one of those. So let's get into it. All right, guys, so we're going to discuss eye appeal, or my appeal in my world. I'm going to show you some of the cards I'm drawn to. This is why I chose these cards. Obviously, I love collecting. I love collecting for the players. I love collecting for the sets. I think that's fantastic. But when you get beyond that, there are other reasons I collect. The color of the card is important to me, or not important, but it draws my eye. That's my eye appeal, depending on what the color is. I love great images. That's important to me. I love the way certain sets look. There are just a lot of reasons why I'll choose a card. Obviously, there are cards that you just definitely want to add to the collection. Mainstream cards that mean a lot. But these are some different cards that I've kind of selected. And if you're familiar with my channel, I've said it a couple times. I love red. Red is my favorite color. So anytime I see a red card of a player that I enjoy, I really like that. So we got a 1959 Early Win. Beautiful red card. And again, centering might not be perfect to some, but that card is good enough for me. It's a beautifully clean card. I love the red background. Again, red is my favorite color. Early Win was on the White Sox at this point in time, so checks a lot of boxes off for me. So that's one. Again, here we are with Most Valuable Player, MVP Nellie Fox. Again, red card. Very clean card. I guess this would fit the standard of great eye appeal. Centered well, sharp corners, clean color. I love that card. And, I might do a Nelly run down the road. I've shown this card a couple times and pointed it out as to why I love it because of the red. Al Kaline. So this card was graded by PSA, and PSA gave it the opinion of a VG3. I have no idea why. I don't care. I think this is actually one of the first cards I've ever sent. I've sent the PSA 3 times, I think, this was the first time I ever sent the PSA. Clearly, it's not centered top to bottom. Clearly, some of the corners might be touched up. And again, I'm just pointing this out for the quote-unquote eye appeal conversation. That's a beautiful card. Any way you slice it. Color's great, beautiful image. Al Kaline, young Al Kaline. The back is in great shape. But deemed a 3 by PSA. So why? I have no idea. But so be it. I'll take it. When your restrictions are less on having the standard beautiful eye appeal card, you start to find value, right? You can find value in it. If you're looking for cards and want to be on a budget and the everyday card collector way, I don't need that card in an 8, a 7, a 6, or a 5. I don't. You can see that the 3 is beautiful. And it fits the collection perfectly. So those were a couple I rattled off because of color. I love red. So this is another example of a card that I think is fantastic eye appeal. So there's my 1959 Eddie Mathews. And this might just be horrific for some. Left to right centering's horrible, I guess. Or maybe 80-20, maybe. And some people can't even handle that. But at the end of the day, look at how clean the card is. It's just a gorgeous card. It's a yellow background. Centering doesn't mean a lot to me. I'll be honest with you. Now, if half of the image is getting cut off, maybe my eye appeal, maybe it doesn't attract my eye as much. But this is just a gorgeous card. And again, there are some out there that just can't handle cards being that off-centered. And that's okay. This is an opinion. This is simply my opinion. Off-center cards, I'm great. If I can get it at a discount, I'm good with that all day long. Another example of that, my 54 Phil Rizzuto. Hey, look at that, another red card. Not centered really great. Tough to get the 54 set centered well, but just a beautiful card. SGC deemed this a 4.5. Don't know why. Maybe the centering. Who knows? Maybe the corners are a little touched up, but fits my collection perfectly. I think it's beautiful. And I guess where I'm going with this, guys, is we don't have to, I almost get nervous when they start putting numbers on things and people are feeling they have a lesser collection because it's a 1 or a 2. And if there are people out there, the main focus of this video is eye appeal is your eye appeal. That number means absolutely nothing. And we hear that a lot. And it becomes cliche, and there's a lot of content out there, and all of my friends who make content, we all say a lot of the same things sometimes, but at the end of the day, I truly mean that. And if the number means so very little, then my opinion is, why even grade it at that point in time, right? So And that's kind of where I'm leaning lately. I grabbed this guy, Warren Spahn, 55 Redman. Looks pretty clean and touched up corners. Why did I grab this for eye appeal? Well, the tab is off. And when I first started collecting and I started to dive into Redmans, I thought to myself, man, I would never, I just don't want one without the tab. It's got to be complete. It's got to have the tab. That's important to me. Why? The tab is the least appealing part of the card when it comes to these Redman. It really is, but it brings up the value if it's on there for some reason or another. But look at how beautiful that image is. Look at how striking that is. I think it's fantastic. So my eye appeal now, and you can get this at probably half of the cost of the card in the same condition if it had the tab on it. So I wanted to add this Warren Spahn to my collection. Tab, no tab, doesn't make a difference to me. I have a few with tab. I have a Stan Musial. I have an Ellie Fox with tab. But again, budget comes into play. I think I picked this card up for $8. So we're looking at a 55 Spawn Redman. Great condition, in my opinion. Fits my eye appeal, or my appeal. And it was $8. So will I grade this? No. Why should I? I know it's a good looking card, and that's all that matters to me. I just kind of want to drive home the fact that eye appeal is completely and totally subjectional, and what your eye is drawn to is what it's drawn to, and if you like it and others don't, again, that's okay. Collect in the manner that you need to collect, right? Don't we always say that? 1939 play ball, Bill Dickey. He's been on the channel several times. I bought this at the National in Chicago 2 years ago, and I looked at that and said, wow, this is dead centered. Corners are fantastic. Just looks great. This has been on the channel a couple times, and I sent it to SGC. I think maybe the first time I ever sent to SGC, and it got a 1.5. And I was absolutely stunned, and I remember being devastated. Like, how did this get a 1.5? And if you look carefully, and it's been on the channel, so some of you have probably seen it, next to his arm, almost dead center in the card, there's a pinhole. So it's a Mookie Chilson special. There's a pinhole there. And initially I was just so upset that I purchased it and I didn't see it. And how did I not catch that, and disappointed in myself. And I thought about it a little bit longer, and after time went on, this is a gorgeous card. I don't care. At the end of the day, it's tough to see that thing to begin with. And when it's sitting in my display case, it looks beautiful. Now, that number, I get a kick out of this. That number says a 1.5. So those who don't know, or those who don't collect just to collect, may say, well, why is that a 1.5? And then you have to explain it. I did a cardboard and cold ones a couple weeks ago, and Garrett was on with me and Sammy. And Garrett said, I've got a couple cards in my collection. I don't like SGC as much because the number's so big. And he said, I've got a few cards that are a 1. And when I look at that slab, my eye is instantly drawn to that 1, and I find it offensive. He said, I think that it's like they're offending me because it's such a beautiful card, but it's got a 1 on it. And I kind of giggled and agree with him, and then the thought becomes, well, then don't grade it. Then why even grade it? Now, if you're a dealer, in the case where Garrett's a dealer, and maybe he's going to move cards back and forth, I totally understand that. But if it's a forever card in your collection, why? I know there are reasons, and grading becomes, you want to add some sort of value to it. You want to be able to pinpoint what the value is for down the road when you're passing on cards, to others in the family during your legacy, and you're moving on. It makes it easier for them. I understand that. I totally get that. But if it's just to grade it, if you're going to encase it, you want to keep it safe. I understand that too. And why did I grade this back then? Because I was on that craze of, everything's got to be graded and everything's got to look fantastic. Now, I love SGC over the PSA slabs. That's just my personal opinion. And again, I might grade more, but I'm selective, and I'm selective because of the cost of it. So images are huge for me, guys. Images are a big deal. I've been collecting a lot of pre-war for those of you who follow the channel, so you know this. This is a 75 Tony Esposito. I believe I got this as a gift. It might have been from my friend Joe. But how cool is that image? I picked this one out just because the image is phenomenal. And he actually didn't live very far from me in the town that I grew up in when he was playing with the Hawks. So I thought that was a great image. I just wanted to pick that. This has been on the channel several times. I love this Sherm Lawler, one of my favorite images of any baseball card. I just think it's beautiful. 53 set is a beautiful set. So I grabbed this for virtually nothing, fit the budget perfectly for what it was. And otherwise, you know, I probably would have bought an ungraded one, but I saw it at a show actually. And it was just, you know, it's just great shape. You know, how's the centering on it? I don't know. It's not perfect left to right. Yeah, the corners are soft. Yeah, there's some chipping on the bottom. But again, it fits my appeal. Another perfect example of buying a card, being disappointed at first, and then thinking about it and going, no, this is fine. Beautiful image. Red Heart, 54 Red Heart, Nellie Fox. Bought this card on eBay not that long ago, maybe 2 months ago. After I purchased it, I went back to look at the image before the card even got to me. And I zoomed in and I said, you know what? That thing is trimmed. I actually did a video on it. Wasn't thrilled about it being trimmed. Again, disappointed, kind of like the Bill Dickey. And then I thought about it more and more and said, well, who cares? I'm not getting another one. It's beautiful the way it is. I love the card itself. So I'm keeping it. Now, the one thing I will do is I will label it in some manner as being a trimmed card, because I don't want people down the road, if this card gets into someone else's hands when I'm gone from this earth, thinking that they have a non-trimmed card. I want to be forthright about the fact that it is trimmed. And you can see it at the top. It's, you know, it's not really tough to see. So initially I thought, man, I wasn't really careful enough when I purchased it. And then I thought again, well, who cares at this point? Yeah, you know, I probably wasn't, but it's a great looking card. So that kind of fell in line where I was disappointed at first and then fine with it after the fact. You guys know I collect modern. This was a gift as well. The eye appeal is the shine. Beautiful image of Stan the Man Musial. I think it's fantastic. So some of the modern catches my eye. A lot of the shine catches my eye. Here's another one that's been on the channel before. Rogers Hornsby. Look at that shine. Just a gorgeous card. It catches my eye, so that's why I still collect modern, for one of several reasons why I still collect modern. And then 62 Carl Yastrzemski Post. I just think the colors work fantastic together. The red of the Post logo and the number, and then the blue at the bottom. This is an early Yastrzemski. It's a hand-cut card. It might be touched up in the corners. It's not the perfect cut, but to have the card is phenomenal. So it fits my appeal. And I guess what I wanted to kind of just express, if I haven't beat that drum enough, is eye appeal is truly my appeal. It is what you want it to be. No one can tell you that the eye appeal of your card is no good, or of your collection is no good, because it's not their collection. And I know that's kind of cliche, but that's a fact. And I really wanted to push that because the phrase eye appeal has been coming out a lot lately. And I feel like, you know, it's kind of categorizing something that doesn't need to be categorized. So I just wanted to put this video together. We'll get, I don't really have anything to stand these cards up where I'm at right now, so we'll just kind of leave it as is. And we'll end on the note that eye appeal is what you want it to be. Your collection is what you want it to be. And in my mind, that's all that matters. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. I know I went rambling on a little bit about eye appeal, but it's just kind of how I felt, and I felt I wanted to get this video out there. So I hope you enjoyed it. If you enjoy this kind of content, please feel free to like and subscribe. And until the next video, we'll talk then. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.